Hiya. Little bit nervous, I'm not going to lie. But Adam asked me to come and share my testimony, so I just wanted to give you an idea of kind of how finding faith has helped me to beat an addiction, a drug addiction. So I planned this whole thing where I wrote everything down and I kind of thought, "Do you know what, I'm just going to wing this because it's my story and I should know my story and I know it in and out. So yeah, nerves are kicking in, like I say, a little bit. But I'm going to start with reading out what I wrote for something that I did yesterday for Mind Charity. So I completed a 15.7 kilometre run yesterday for Mind Charity, off my own back with another person that's also in recovery with me, running from St George's Hospital. I actually ran back to Rugeley and did quite a big route there through off-road and on-road. And managed to raise £200 for Mind. So it was fantastic. So the story that I wrote behind that is where I'll start and kind of go on from there and add little bits and whatnot. So my name is Laura Jane Priest. I'm 35 years old. Very first things first, all the proceeds raised for this activity that I've done is sent directly by JustGov into Mind Charity. I've got no involvement to access the money raised, and you'll understand when hearing my story why it's important that I make this statement. I'm 35 and I am a recovering addict. As I write this story, or I tell this story today, I am nearly 10 weeks sober. I would like to share my story and hopefully raise some awareness around the topics that I'm going to cover and hopefully raise some money for Mind Charity by completing the run, which I did do. Mind haven't only supported me, but have supported my family in the past few years in what can only be described as the worst time of my life. Finding faith in my addiction really helped. But the disease cost me not only nearly my life on numerous occasions, but my children, my marriage, friends, family, and much more. My mental health prior to and whilst in the addiction was all over the place, to say the least, and everyone around me suffered in some way too. Perhaps not even realising it, particularly my husband, who were no longer together because of this, particularly my children, and particularly the ones closest to me and my family. It all started many years ago during my younger days now, I realise, where it became apparent in around 2016 that I had an issue with binge drinking and using cocaine recreationally. In what until recently I thought was only for recreational purposes, you'll soon hear how quickly this unfolds. That year I walked away from a relationship and a marriage where I was not only unhappy, but I realised that the lifestyle that we were living was toxic, and for us and my older two children. From the day I walked away from that marriage, I was living alone. The children were 50-50 and my mental health and depression really took a turn for the worst. The 6 to 12 months that follows, I had days where I was on top of the world. Sorry, I'm just catching up on this. And other days where I literally wouldn't get out of bed. I'd been in this relationship for 10 years, and in hindsight, I spent so much time over those years that towards the latter two, I was just really unhappy and always looking for the next thing to work towards too. To have something to look forward to, keep me going, like a holiday, a new car, home improvements, always trying to fill that gap. I think the 1 year I had 4 new cars, which were all, by the way, on HP or credit or debit card. I booked holiday after holiday. I booked and cancelled my wedding 3 times and binge drank and took cocaine every single Friday and Saturday night, all as a result of my mental health, I believe. The 12 months that followed that were really difficult. I was drinking most nights, smoking like a chimney, and taking cocaine every weekend. I was out partying, and on reflection, I was making up for lost teenage years, although when you're in your late 20s, it's not exactly good, is it? So in 2017, I got in a really bad way, and with help from my parents, turned things around. Things not only turned around, but they completely improved, or I thought at the time. I got a promotion at work, I stopped drinking and using during the week. Hardly took drugs on a weekend either. I had a good routine with the kids. I'd got a nice house, a nice rented house. I was on good money. I thought I'd got good friends. I had a good social life. I was going to the gym regularly. Life felt good. But then came the cherry on the cake and I met the love of my life. Still drinking and using coke recreationally, but this beautiful human that I'd met had his head screwed on. I'd never met anyone like him in my life, and I fell more and more in love with him each day that followed. We were so happy, except when I had too much to drink. Except when I had too much to drink. Started to creep back, the binge drinking, the coke, the obsessions. There was clearly some chemical imbalance from the drugs and alcohol, and mixed in with a pre-existing mental health condition. would usually lead to an explosion. I'd go off the rails, losing my head, being aggressive, possessive, violent, running away. The days where I started to feel low started creeping back and became more and more. But this time I was so frustrated because for the first time in my life, I got everything that I wanted. What could have possibly been missing? I'd got a good job, 2 beautiful kids, a nice car, a nice house, which all got even better when I moved in with Tom. We got married. This beautiful person had no children of his own, and we had a daughter together. And Lily is now 3. She's amazing. Everybody's met Lily, and she's all 3 of the girls are. But it was great. I wanted to be the one to make it happen for him. So I proposed, and everything went from there. The morning that I found out I was pregnant, the drugs stopped, the drink stopped. Other than half the shandy here and there, but the world went into lockdown and COVID hit. It was tough, as it was for everybody, but I was pregnant. I'd made this person the happiest man in the world. We had our children and life was fantastic. My moods were still really volatile, but I blamed pregnancy hormones because I wasn't drinking right, so what could it be? In September 2020, I brought our baby girl into the world. Life couldn't get more perfect, but inside I felt like I was crumbling. What was this feeling, and why did I feel so low? Why did I feel so angry? I got so frustrated. I just wanted it to stop. I hated myself, and there was something mentally wrong with me, because why on earth could this lucky woman who had everything that she ever wanted feel so much like crap? Drink started to creep back. I did the drugs every now and again, but I held it down. I was okay. I just kept telling myself that I was okay. We had the most amazing honeymoon in Ibiza, and in hindsight, looking back now, it was just terrible. I drank and used drugs every day that we were there. And away from Tom, I kept it all secret and was hiding this horrible habit. What on earth was I playing at? Life back home for the next 2 years was turbulent. No, that's not the word. It was a crash. It was a train crash over and over again. I pushed everybody away. Husband, kids, family, you named it. I pushed and pushed until they went. I was using cocaine daily. I was drinking to bring myself back down to the high. I was stealing, lying, manipulating, concealing myself and hiding away. Pushing loved ones away, and I was ruining any relationships. Well, not ruining, completely obliterating them. But I didn't see that at the time. I still didn't think I had a problem. I kept on denying it. I said I didn't have an issue, but after numerous attempts of suicide, physically hurting the man that I loved, mentally abusing him and the children and myself and everyone else around me, I played the role of a victim. Poor me, look at me, I've got a problem and I can't help it. And the truth is I couldn't, because Laura was no longer in control of the cocaine and vodka. Cocaine and vodka were in control of Laura. I ruined it all, everything that I had. Walked away from a 15-year career. Lost all the material stuff in life that just doesn't matter in hindsight now. But all because of my little friend, cocaine. What a great mate, eh? I always thought it was helping me cover up my mental health, blocking my emotions, stopping me feeling. And it did. It numbed me and made things better in the beginning. It made me forget. But in actual fact, all it did was make all of my problems a million times worse. Daily, hourly, minutely, it consumed me. All I could ever think about was my next hit, and I did whatever it took to get it. Rehab didn't work. After a few months clean, it started all over again. I felt low, and I decided to pick up just a little bit, won't hurt, because I'm in control, aren't I? 5 days later, you find yourself back on the amount that you picked up on, laughed off. If you ever hear yourself saying that, just a bit, one won't hurt, I'm okay, I'm in control now, I'm fixed. You are not in control at all. Like, it's a massive thing. It went from bad to worse, and the worst got to the worst point I've ever got. I was brought down to my knees. I'd got everything back after rehab. Everything. I found faith. I thought that I was living this wonderful life. I thought that God accepted me for who I am, and I kind of used that as an excuse in the beginning as well, thinking that, well, he'll accept me for my faults as well, because that's okay, isn't it? And it kind of made it in my head okay, feel like it was acceptable. So I lost it all again, and this time it was even worse. And I was always told when I went to the rehab centre that I went to, I remember one of the girls saying to me when I left, if you ever go back, he will bring you down to your knees. You do know that, harder than you'll ever imagine. And you know what? It wasn't God that did that. It was me that did that. And I did it all over again because I just didn't realise. So anyway, I stand here today, nearly 10 weeks sober, from the bottom of my heart, absolutely pleading with anybody with a mental health condition, anyone that's feeling low, anyone who's reliant on something to get them through the day, whether it be drugs, alcohol, some kind of addiction or obsession, something that you feel like you can't go without that's unhealthy, to reach out and talk to somebody. Finding faith, but also finding the support that I've got around from the different organisations, which, I'd be happy for anybody to contact me and approach me, and be happy to share that information. Has massively helped me. But the drugs made me and put me into a person that I would never speak. I'd just go mute. So got all these thoughts racing in my head, and to stop the thoughts, I'd use drugs. When in actual fact, all it was doing was masking everything. It was just completely masking it. I wish that I continued and had the courage to speak up the first time, but I didn't, and I made the mistake of going back and doing a bit more research. Can I do it? Am I all right? No, I'm not. I'm an addict. I'm in recovery. I can never touch, one's too many, and never touch drugs or alcohol again, and I'm actually okay with that for the first time in my life. I never accepted it before. So now 10 weeks in recovery, and after trying to end my life yet again, with an overdose just over 10 weeks ago, I feel completely different to any of the other times that I've tried to beat this horrendous dark shadow that hangs over me. I spent 7 days sweating the poison out of me and rattling around the house, battling with myself and my own mind, and the loved ones around me who were supporting me so hard. Every muscle ached in my body, every bone hurt, my eyes hurt, my hair hurt, you name it, it hurt. It's not the first time, but I'll make damn sure that it's the last. How can something that started as a bit of fun end up completely consuming your being and worth and every reason to live? So that's kind of like, there is a lot more to that story, which I won't really go into, because, my kind of background before everything that's happened from this, which I'm learning at the moment. I'm going through a lot of sort of group therapy, CBT, and there's a lot of organisations out there that I didn't realise were there to help, and it's all free. I've now got a sponsor. I'm now attending, evening groups and finding faith massively, believing in my higher power is a huge, it sort of sits on top of that. God sits there, and my God looks at me and he accepts me for who I am now. I was brought up with addiction in my family, and my childhood went from sort of okay to bad to really good. And then I always felt like I didn't fit in. I didn't grow up with my mom. I've never met my dad. My mom was in addiction, and so my life was pretty turbulent when I was younger. And I think I always used that as a reason to use, and the missing part was always there. It was always there. But finding faith has filled that hole massively, because not having a dad and not having somebody to, when you do something and you get an achievement, it was okay, because I'd get like a bit of recognition off my auntie, and I'd get it off my granddad, and I've had lots of support around me, while I was growing up. But now, knowing that I have the Father and my God that sits over me, accepting me for who I am, and looking over me, and I feel how proud he is. I feel it in me. He tells me, he shows me how proud he is of me, and I get that feeling, and it's something that nobody can take away. That's never going to go. He's never going to walk out of the door. He's never going to get took on by addiction and leave me, and no abandonment with God at all. He accepts you for who you are, and that for me is massive. Like, I see him as my lion, and I'm his cub. And everything that I do, I feel like I can just snuggle into him at any time, and I can reach out to him. He's proud of me, and he'll stand in front of me when I need him to as well if I reach out to him. He's there to protect me, and that's how I see my God. And that for me is massive, because I've never had that before. I've never had that stability, and he's the one stable thing in my life at the moment, which is, again, keeping me sober. So there's just a couple of things that I just wanted to read out, which really helped me in the beginning, and reaching out to anybody else out there that's going through anything that I've spoke about, if you've got any of those feelings, and these are all things that come from the Bible and from sermons that when I was in recovery, when I was in the recovery centre that I was in, it was a Christian community, and finding these and listening and highlighting these and rereading them really helped. So Reverend J. John, one of his conferences that he did, one of the ladies' conferences, he says that God says you are lovable. Look at the birds. You are valuable. You're forgivable. You are capable. God sent his son so that we could be forgiven for our sins. Jesus took our sins to the cross and gave his life so that we could be forgiven. In Revelations, it says, Lord, break that door down, cleanse me. I have restricted you. I want to be resident and I want to be president. And that for me is massive as well, because once you let them doors down and let him in, he's there. He's banging at your door already. He wants to come in. And I think that the only other thing that I wanted to read out as well is a couple of other things. God sees me. That for me was a massive thing, because to know that he sees me is so warming and loving. And finally, hell's just another one. I am free. So I'll leave it there. Thank you.